Admiral Kethlar of the Galactic Defense Academy stood before the massive holographic display, his 6 arms crossed in what his species considered deep contemplation. The simulation chamber hummed with the energy of 1,000 processing cores, each one dedicated to maintaining the most complex military exercise ever conceived by the Galactic Council. "The Terran cadets have requested to participate in the Omega Protocol simulation," announced his aide, Sub-Commander Yixtal, her mandibles clicking nervously. Shall I approve their request?" Kethlar's photoreceptors dimmed slightly. The humans had been at the Academy for only 3 rotations, yet they had already turned every combat simulation into what they called speed runs. The other species had begun to avoid joint exercises with them entirely. "Very well," he rumbled through his vocal chambers. "Set the scenario to the fall of Xerion. Standard 10-cycle engagement parameters." The Omega Protocol was the Academy's most prestigious challenge. It recreated the decade-long Xerion campaign that had required the combined might of 17 species to resolve. The simulation had never been completed in fewer than 8 cycles, by even the most experienced fleet admirals. Most cadets never made it past the 3rd cycle before their forces were completely annihilated. 3 humans entered the chamber: Cadet Sarah Chen, a slight woman whose eyes held the intensity of a plasma storm; Cadet Marcus Rodriguez, whose relaxed posture belied the tactical genius that had already frustrated a dozen instructors; and Cadet Yuki Tanaka, who possessed an unsettling ability to predict enemy movements 3 steps ahead. "Cadets," Kethlar announced through the chamber's communication system, "you will command a coalition fleet against the Xerion hegemony. The scenario will conclude when either the enemy capital falls or your command structure is eliminated. Historical parameters suggest this engagement will require—" "Yeah, we read the brief," Chen interrupted, already interfacing with the tactical display. 10 years, 17 species, massive casualties. Got it. Rodriguez cracked his knuckles, a sound that made the observing alien instructor shudder. "So what's the record?" "The record?" Yixtal stammered. "Fastest completion time," Tanaka clarified, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We assume someone's beaten it before." The instructors exchanged bewildered looks. No one had ever asked about speed records for the Omega Protocol. It was meant to teach patience, long-term strategy, and the complexities of coalition warfare. "The simulation begins now," announced the system. What happened next would be discussed in tactical academies across the galaxy for generations. Chen immediately disbanded half the coalition fleet. "Dead weight," she explained to the horrified observers. "The Krelian ships are too slow. The Vorthak frigates have garbage shields. And don't get me started on the Tellurian dreadnoughts. We're keeping the fast stuff." "But the political ramifications," began Instructor Veltar. "Don't care," Rodriguez said, redirecting supply lines with ruthless efficiency. "Tanaka, what's the enemy's blind spot?" "They're expecting a traditional siege," she replied, highlighting sectors on the tactical display. "All their defensive positioning assumes we'll follow standard doctrine and establish a perimeter here." She pointed to the outer system. "But if we punch through their early warning grid here and here, we can be in their capital system before they realize we've moved." Chen grinned, an expression that had already become legendary among Academy instructors for its predatory implications. "Blitzkrieg protocol?" "With modifications," Rodriguez nodded. "The enemy's got interdiction fields to prevent hyperspace jumps near their worlds. But what if we don't need to jump?" The humans began implementing something they called gravitational slingshot warfare. Using their remaining ships' superior speed and maneuverability, they turned the star system's own gravity wells into accelerators. Ships would approach a gas giant at maximum velocity, use its gravitational field to achieve impossible speeds, then coast ballistically toward their targets with all power diverted to shields and weapons. "This is madness," whispered Commander Theklan of the Strategic Assessment Board. "They're treating space combat like atmospheric fighter warfare." "It's working, though," observed his colleague, watching the tactical display with horrified fascination. The Xerion Defense Fleet, positioned for a traditional long-range engagement, found themselves under assault by ships moving at nearly 15% of light speed. Their weapons, calibrated for standard engagement velocities, couldn't track the incoming human-led forces. But the real genius revealed itself in the final phase. While the enemy scrambled to respond to the high-velocity assault, Tanaka had been analyzing their communication patterns. "They're using quantum-encrypted channels," she announced. "But they're still biological minds. Pattern recognition says their command structure will consolidate defensive orders through their primary relay station. There." A single ship, piloted by Chen herself, broke from the main assault. While the enemy fleet engaged the primary force, she slipped through their formation like a ghost, targeting not their ships or their worlds, but their communication hub. The relay station's destruction caused a cascade failure in the Xerian command network. Suddenly cut off from centralized coordination, their vast defensive fleet began making contradictory tactical decisions. Ships collided, overlapping fields of fire hit friendly vessels, and entire squadrons jumped to hyperspace in confusion. "Enemy capital defenses are down," the simulation announced. "Coalition victory achieved. Total elapsed time, 47 minutes, 32 seconds. The chamber fell silent except for the ambient hum of cooling processors. "How?" Admiral Kethler finally managed. "How did you know to target the communication relay?" Rodriguez shrugged. "Basic doctrine. In any complex system, you don't attack the components, you attack the connections between components. Also," Chen added with that predatory grin, "we're from a death world. We don't really do 10-year wars. On Earth, if something takes 10 years to kill, you're not trying hard enough." Tanaka nodded sagely. "Plus, we've all played RTS games since we were kids. Rush strategies are fundamental." As the three humans left the chamber, chattering about optimization routes and sequence breaking, the alien instructors remained frozen in contemplation. "Perhaps," Veltar suggested quietly, "we should reconsider our standard tactical curriculum." Admiral Kethler's photoreceptors flickered in what his species considered deep unease. "Indeed, and perhaps we should be grateful these Deathworlders are on our side." The next day, the Academy implemented new regulations. All future simulations involving human cadets would be classified, and visiting fleet commanders were no longer permitted to observe human tactical exercises. Some knowledge, they realized, was too dangerous to spread through the galaxy's established military doctrines. After all, if everyone fought like Deathworlders, wars might actually end.